I brought a guest with me today. This is Hero. How are you today, Hero? Welcome back to the Imaginary Gallery. It's TJ, your host. Tonight's discussion is regarding the discard. Have you been discarded by a narcissistic, personality disordered creature? I'll be discussing some details regarding that situation, and we'll also provide some explanations, advise on some different ways of thinking about what exactly happened to hopefully get you through it easier. Once you've been involved with these types of creatures, it could have been for just a short while, or it could have been several months or years. It can be devastating regardless. Even if you can see what a rotten creature the other person really was, it still doesn't take away from an empty feeling. Probably because eventually you found yourself spending way more time with this person than anyone else. So when they're gone, there's like a big emptiness there, a gaping hole. And if it discarded you, especially if it was for some evil reason or because it found someone else and you found out about it or something like that, that can make it very difficult as well, because your feelings of being with that person are still fresh. They just vanish like that. They can be with you intimately, asking you to marry you today, and then tomorrow acting like you're a complete stranger. You must remember, though, whether it was long-term or short-term, you've been involved in, what I've said before, a relationship hit and run. That doesn't mean it was instant, though. The hit could have lasted for months, weeks, years, even days. And you may wonder, why do I feel like this? That person's wicked. I should be happy. Imagine looking at a little kitty cat in a pet store. A little kitty cat you could walk up to and scratch behind its ears, rub its little belly. You'll hear it purr. The purring indicates it feels great and it feels like it's in heaven. Well, that's how you felt during your creature's love bombing, probably, because it complimented everything you did, it liked everything you suggested, it just seemed like a match made in heaven. Of course, that was an act, which you wouldn't have been aware of. Picture this kitty cat in the pet store. Say you want it, and you go up and pet it, and you see it acting all happy. Then imagine that same kitty cat, and there's an evil villain who plans on murdering that cat, slaughtering it. And you see that character go in, and it does the same thing. Pets it and scratches it because it wants to get it to lower its defenses so it can take it and kill it. You have to think about your situation like that, as if you were on the outside and when you're looking at the cat and seeing the difference between the nice person who genuinely would care for the cat and pet it, which would be you, who would give that cat love and give it all kinds of toys and catnip. So you know that with you, that's how it would be with the cat. However, when there's a wicked person that has evil intentions, you see how it goes to that cat and
come here, honey.
And you're watching from the outside saying, oh, don't do it. Kitty, warning, warning, kitty, he's going to get you. Well, there was no one there to warn you when you were in your situation, more than likely. And if there was someone warning, it would probably look like they were jealous, or the creature would tell you,
oh, she's just jealous. She wants me. That's why she says that stuff.
The problem with these creatures is, though, there's usually nothing that's detectable as far as knowing they're a fraud, because they have an answer for everything. If you do find something that doesn't make sense and you try to ask, typically you'll be told some answer, even if it sounds ridiculous, which it often will. But for some reason, when you're dealing with these creatures and they give you these ridiculous responses and answers, your mind usually thinks that sounds like BS, but at the same time you realize it could be true. The stories they choose are usually possible. They're just a lot of times not probable. And you eventually may learn the difference, but not always, because they are excellent talkers to get out of any situation. And the other thing they do that's very puzzling and difficult is if you do catch them, like maybe they are doing something really awful, and maybe it's not so clear that it's awful, but you walk right in on it and see it, you might say, I got you! And if you do, they will never turn red or like, oh, you caught me, oh please. No, they will always act casual and say,
oh, nothing's going on.
And you looked at that behavior and you thought, oh, I guess maybe I didn't catch him doing anything. Okay. But they're very effective at hiding what's really going on, so you don't have a clue, especially when you catch them. I've met several of these creatures that there'd be some smoking gun situations, like, I know this happened, and it would be like,
oh, no, it didn't.
These creatures would never actually admit until it was like overwhelming. Like, really? Do we need to bring the person in here and have them tell us what happened?
Okay.
They usually try to minimize it, though, when it's a really big deal, especially considering all the times they tell you.
You better not be with anyone else but me.
But then you find out there was someone that they fought for so long about saying they weren't. And it's amazing how quickly they just want to throw that subject away and quit discussing it because they don't want to have to address it. They would like to just give you some foolish excuse, hope you accept it, then never bring it up again. Remember, I've said before, they treat you or they see you like you might see a new phone. You've got a new smartphone, it's got all these features. If that smartphone failed one particular day, or if you happen to notice a better version of one that was cheaper or free, you might toss that phone aside because it's an object. You probably wouldn't have any deep emotional attachment to that phone. It's just a phone that gives you what you need. You'd be fine with any phone. That's how they look at their relationships. Or when they're using the phone or the relationship, they'll use it like they like it, especially if it's a person and they want things out of it. That's the way they really see others. It's just a useful gadget, and there's another one somewhere close by, and it may work better than or similar to your gadget. So it will very easily toss one off and take the other one and not even think a thing about it. That's not typically how we think of other people. It's important to realize that none of this is anything you had any control over. You didn't know that you were in the grips of a psychopathic con artist. You might have even asked, "Are you lying?" And of course they'll say, "Well, no." And then if you catch it lying,
Oh, I was kidding.
Whatever. They have games for all that stuff. One thing that works in their favor is that they're new to you. You don't really know what they're doing or what they're capable of. And they might even act innocent. A lot of times they'll mirror you, so they'll act just like you do. And that makes it really difficult because it seems like you've met this person who's just like you. But really, when you look into the person, you'll often find out that it's nothing like you. But it acts like it is like you, and it's with you, because that disarms you and makes you feel comfortable. In their mind, hopefully, leads to you thinking, wow, in this world of all these awful people, this one is just right for me. But it's an act, and you wouldn't have known it's an act. It's important not to blame yourself for this because these are con artists. You're not the first person that tried this stuff on. It's perfected its act, and you just happen to be the latest one to fall into its wicked trap. And like with that kitty cat, when they're treating you like your royalty, it's awfully difficult to argue with that. If they're giving you everything you want, fixing things that need to be fixed, that you didn't even ask to be fixed, it's hard for you to then think, do I want to accuse this person of being a phony? Because even if it wasn't a phony, it might be offended at that. And these creatures usually are a phony, so they have methods to make it seem like you're off base for even asking such a question. Even though you could lay out exactly why you're asking, especially if it's too good to be true. But then at the same time, like if it does every little thing for you and you think this is too good to be true, but then, oh, that was done for me. Oh, well, that was nice. You can't be that hard on yourself. You can enjoy whatever they're giving you. If they're a fraud, well, it's not your fault if they went out of their way to help you. They were doing it as a technique to get closer to you so they could scam you. I know it's hard, though, to think about that stuff like, but it did do that really nice thing for me. It didn't have to do that. Well, think of it as whatever it did was part of its strategy at getting to you so it could ruin you later. They know all the tricks. They know how to keep your interest. They know what not to say. They lie all the time. I've met a few of those where they'll make a really strong statement. They never do something, like the lying thing.
I never lie.
But then later in the same conversation, they reveal to you something that's a blatant lie. And I'd find myself automatically being in tune to that, and I'd be like, that's a lie! Even if they're new, I wasn't like saying, oh, that's a lie, it's over. I would just be like laughing about it, like, so you never lie? Oh, but you just lied about that? That's a lie. But I would never be judgmental. I would just say, that's a lie. Like if it was a bird flying by, oh, that's a bird. But I think in their mind, if you're still there talking to them and interacting, they're winning. Doesn't matter what they said to them. But some red flags you can look out for would be the one that wants to spend all of its time with you, and look out for it doing discard type behavior towards maybe someone in its family. If you see its phone ring and it says,
Oh, I don't like her anymore. I'm not going to talk to her again.
is to make you think you're really special. Like it's turning down someone else to be with you. But sometimes it will be like a negative towards the other person.
I'm not talking to her anymore.
Even though they were close previously, that's a sign that it won't be long until you're the one that it does that to. If you said, that's not very nice to blow that person off. You're going to do that to me one day, aren't you? Of course, they'll say,
Oh, no, never to you. You're different.
and that's part of their charm and fake sweet talk, so look out for it. It's really difficult to confront these people and question them when they're in the act of doing their thing to get you. They're not ever going to say,
Oh yeah, this is fake. I'm pretending to like you so I can get your money.
or whatever they're wanting. They won't ever say that. The exception would be at discard time. They might say,
Oh, by the way, I just used you. I never liked
they
you.
might say it then, but whenever they're at work on you and they want something from you, they will not take that mask off typically. So you'll be left wondering. Or just look for poorly treating others, maybe a coworker or a relative or friend. If you see it being really cold or short towards someone else, just realize that that might be coming for you down the line, no matter what they say. So the idea is you feel special in the moment, like you might even tell yourself, wow, this person isn't even talking to its own relative who wants to be with me. This is so great. But that is more flattery. It's not based in reality. And if this creature did discard you and it's gone, it's hard to tell you, oh, just be glad you're better off, because that doesn't really help you when you have that emptiness. Something feels like it's missing because you had a real attachment to the person. You were genuine and actually shared yourself with the creature. And its side, you were just the phone it tossed aside. For you to realize that, to think, you're just tossing me aside like that, like nothing happened. It's emotional for you because you're not a phone. You're an actual human being. But it sees you as a phone and doesn't care. And even if you say, you're treating me like I'm just a phone, it'll probably laugh or it'll agree with you, or it might just say,
Oh, no, I'm not.
the point is, that's what it's doing, no matter what it says. So it doesn't help you to tell you, oh, be glad it's over. You should consider yourself lucky. Well, you should, but just realize the longer it would have lasted, the harder it is to get through. So if you're surviving and you're still alive and you're breathing, realize it could have been worse if it lasted any longer. It's a dead end, no matter how long it lasts. The more attached you get with this creature, the more devastating it can be when it just says, and leaves. Because you're thinking of all the personal growth you may have experienced with them, thinking you were connecting here and there and it felt so great, like progress. But then all of a sudden it just tosses it aside. It's even more confusing too when this is a creature who aggressively pursued you, like,
Oh, you're the only one.
and it just kept trying desperately, especially if you were slow to catch on in the beginning. That's even more baffling because all the flattery and the desperation it seems to have when it acts like you're the only thing that lives in this world, to go from that to just pretending like you don't exist, that's difficult to comprehend. Because you personally, probably like I do, if I really like something that's not a person, like if I really love some CD of music and love it, I couldn't imagine ever just saying, oh, I don't like that anymore, and throwing it aside. I become attached to it, familiar with every aspect of it. The appreciation for it grows. But with these creatures, that doesn't happen. Their mind is thinking,
I want this, I need it for this reason, I'm going to have to say this to get it to do that. It's not going to know who I really am. I just need it for this purpose.
it's a different way of thinking compared to yours, which might be, oh, this person's really great, oh, we get along so well, oh, that felt so good, I really want to see this person likes me, oh, all those things are like intoxicating. But it's all an illusion. It's difficult because a lot of times you'll think this has got to be an illusion, but there's nowhere to get confirmation for that because the creature is not telling you that. It won't say,
Oh yes, this is an illusion, I'm using you.
it just won't say those things. It's like you're in an experiment and it's leading it. It wants you to fall for everything, and it's talented. It's done this many times, so it wants you to fall for it. Just be a little happier. It could have been worse if it lasted any longer. And again, you're lucky to still have your life because some of these relationships with these creatures don't end so well. You might have even known when you were seeing this creature something was off, but again, it's very difficult because they can pick up on signals. Like the way you say something instantly will determine what they say, whether it's true or not. Like if you say, "Do you like football?" like that, well, that will be a cue to, okay, you don't like football. So if it hears you say, "Do you like football?" it'll be like,
No, I don't like it at all.
or, "Do you like Ricky Martin's music?" It will pick up on the,
Oh, this looks like she likes Ricky Martin's music. Oh yeah, that's my favorite.
"What's your favorite song?"
Oh, I don't know the names of the songs. Oh, I just love Ricky Martin.
Which will be surprising to you down the road where you might come across it telling somebody else.
Oh, I can't stand Ricky Martin.
Because they're fake. They tell you what they need to tell you to get what they need to get from you. Whether it's true or not doesn't matter to them. Usually with these creatures, it can last for a long period and you can have all kinds of unanswered questions or unsolved mysteries, but whenever you try to bring them up, they won't be discussed because these creatures aren't really good problem solvers, especially if the problem has to do with them. That doesn't exist in their mind. It's just static and nonsense if you sit them down to talk about such things, like, I'm really upset about how you did this. They don't want to hear it, because in their mind, you're, again, just a phone. They don't want their phone to lecture them. They just want the phone to do what they want it to do, and keep quiet when they don't want it. So it annoys them when you try to personally relate to them and get to the bottom of problems, and to try to find out motivations, and like, why would you have done this? Because they're so quick to give the shallow,
Oh, I just did this because of that reason.
even though that doesn't really tell you anything. It's just a convenient way for them to not be accountable for what they've done, no matter how hurtful. In some occasions, they might actually try to solve a problem, but it's typically superficial. For example, if you're at a dinner party and you're talking to some other attractive person that maybe you work with, and you laugh and have fun, the creature might say,
I don't like him.
or
I don't like you talking to him.
they'll say stuff like that. That's not really deep, though. That's just, in their mind,
Oh no, there's a possible obstacle in between me and the object that I want.
they want to get rid of it, but they don't go much deeper than that as far as problems. They might say,
Oh, I saw you looking at that coworker of yours. I think you like him.
they might say that kind of thing to you, but really that's not solving problem, especially if it turns out not to be true. It'll say,
Oh, I was just kidding.
when you say you're being paranoid and possessive, they'll say anything to keep you around. And if they do make jealousy statements like that, it's usually because they want to isolate you. They want to keep you away from as many other outside influences as possible, because they usually have some sickening, goofy plans for you. And you'll find with these types of creatures, since they're still a child, technically, in an adult's body, they will play the most ridiculous games. Some of them are just stupid. They're so stupid, if you were to go to another adult and say, oh, I'm dating this person, and it did this thing, and you explain one of its ridiculous games that it might play, then you'll look like there's something wrong with you. They'll be like, what? You think someone's doing that? It's unbelievable, and if you're isolated with them, nobody else is there to see it, so it will sound like you've lost your marbles. But that's what these creatures like to do. If you're isolated and they can play some kind of a prank on you that's stupid and ridiculous, they'll do it. And they know that you'll be a fool if you try to tell someone else. If you do, though, tell someone else.
You know that thing you always say or that thing you always do that I tell you is so wrong and you keep doing it?
Well, I talked to so-and-so.
And she agrees with me.
They hate that kind of talk. They'll say,
Don't you be telling other people what I say to you.
it's just ridiculous. Because again, you're just an object. You're not a person that has feelings and emotions. You're not hurt by such statements. No, you're just a phone, is what it thinks. But no, it doesn't want you discussing it with others. That's one of the reasons why it's isolating you, because it doesn't want you to have other options to be told, that's a fool, get out now. Which may happen, but a lot of times they'll try to see to it that it doesn't, because anyone close to you, they'll probably try to infiltrate so they can give their side of the story and make themselves look great for your friends or peers. So when you do figure out the monster it really is, it won't be a monster to those other people. They'll still be under its spell, even if it's just as a friendship or a fake friendship. So when you say all of a sudden, that person's crazy, I'm leaving it, they will typically defend it, saying, oh, are you sure you're okay? Are you okay? I think there might be something wrong with you. And that's one of the games they'll play with you. If it discarded you, it's going to be empty for the moment. Just look at it as a breathing space. Be glad it didn't last any longer, because if it had, things could have been much worse. So be glad that the universe settled things for you to spare you. Whoever it's with now, it's doing the same types of thing it was doing to you. And don't think for a moment it found true love with this new one it discarded you for, because it's just one more of these games that they play over and over and over again, and nobody wins.
It's me, the narcopath that you dream about every night.
I've been away, but I'm back with a confession for you. Because TJ keeps getting on to me because it really bothers him what I did to you.
Leave me out of it.
I don't see any reason for explaining now what I did
Just
to
tell
him.
your story and what you did so they'll know.
It's just gonna hurt him.
This is designed to help them to heal.
Fine, fine. If it helps you to heal, to see how rotten of a person I am, and therefore not miss me anymore.
Well, then I guess it'll work out for the best, won't it now?
So if you recall, when we were together in love, or so you thought, do you remember that one Sunday afternoon when you invited me to be a part of your family dinner. Remember how I was like 4 hours late? You probably don't recall. Maybe you do. Well, if you remember, I'm very perceptive. The first time we meet, I am scanning you up and down to learn anything and everything I can for purposes of exploitation. In the beginning, it's to charm you.
Later, it's to harm you.
Knock it off.
What? So I collect all of your characteristics. I notice every little tiny detail, and I keep it in mind, because I might be able to use it to exploit you later. Well, that's exactly what I did with you. When I first met you, your house was full of dogs. You just loved them. I, of course, don't really care for dogs. You did? So I pretended, and I brought bacon in my pocket sometimes to charm those dogs. But I knew how you always talked about how you had so many strong feelings for those four-legged critters, and you really just loved them so much, and I knew it. Well, I decided to use that to my advantage.
Go ahead and
I'm
say
not
it.
saying that word.
Say it.
Fine.
To emotionally terrorize you.
Are you happy? Look, are you having fun with this? You're getting off on this. Anyway, let's just get this moving along. That Sunday, I happened to be out at the park with my top down, if you know what I mean. And I knew I was supposed to be over at your home to be with your family, but I couldn't pass up this hot stuff. He was looking at me like I was something, and I knew I was, so I had to have it. He took me to his home. He stripped my clothes off me, and we played around nude. And I looked at my watch and realized, oh my God, I'm supposed to be over at your house. And I had to come up with something, so I reached into my memory banks and thought, what can I use? And I remembered dogs. You love dogs. I've always ridden down the highway and I see dogs in the back of trucks, and I wonder if they ever fall out of those things. I wasn't sure, and I asked the guy I was with, and he didn't know. He was just burying his head down below.
That's disgusting.
What, you want the story told? I'm leaving in all the details.
Proceed.
So I had to come up with an excuse for being 4 hours late, so I concocted one. I figured I'll just show up 4 hours late before you even get the chance to say,
Where have you been? Why haven't you called?
I told you the story and I put on a fake face. You remember, don't you? I'd said,
Oh, I'm so sorry that I'm late, but something really happened. I really don't feel like talking about it, but fine. I was driving down the highway and I saw this man driving a truck and he had a dog in the back. The dog jumped out of the back of the truck and it got run over by another car. And I stopped. I had to stop. Do you blame me? Do you blame me?
even though I didn't care about dogs, but you didn't need to know, you related very well to this because you cared about dogs. So you were like, oh, what? And your eyes were wide open, so I kept it going. I couldn't lose out on this roll, so I continued.
I couldn't just leave the man there. His dog just committed suicide. I couldn't just leave him there. Would you have just left him there?
And I tried to fake some tears,
And you got into tears because it hurt your feelings so much. Even though there was no dog, there was no truck.
None of that happened. I just made it up to get a free pass so you wouldn't yell at me for being 4 hours late to your dinner.
And so you could get away with cheating.
this isn't about me. That's one of my techniques I used to get away with something.
Little did you know that night when you were kissing and licking my neck.
You were licking the fluids of another man.
Wasn't that the night you said I smelled extra good?
You're disgusting.
So what? You're ridiculous. Turn this off.